Hello and welcome everyone. Um, Welcome everyone to our free workshop on techniques for stress and anxiety management. It is our pleasure to have you all over here. This session is organized by the Psych Life, a mental health initiative working towards providing affordable therapy, trainings, raising mental health awareness, and also building India's first mental health store. The Psych Life is founded by Ms. Kirti Garg, who is a psychologist by profession and an assistant professor and a mental health advocate. I'm Khushi, a team member here at the Psych Life. It is our pleasure to welcome the facilitator for this training, Ms. Garima. She is a counseling psychologist and the founder of Seeking My Mind. She is a trauma informed therapist, certified family therapy practitioner, rational emotive behavior therapy practitioner, and hypnotherapy practitioner. We are glad to have you here with us, ma'am. We welcome you. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you so much, Khushi, for the lovely introduction. And hi, everyone. I hope you all are doing well. So, what we're going to do today is communicate through the chat box. There's going to be interactions, and I have some questions for you while we are there in the webinar. So, try and interact more and more because this is how we learn better. So, to start with, I'll just present my screen. Is my slide visible?
Yes, ma'am, it's visible.
Okay. All right. There's going to be a little bit lag, I think. Do not worry, we're going to do all right with it also. Okay, so first things first, I want you all to know that this is a safe space. That means we are creating a safe place for everyone who is here, the participants. We are not going to judge them, we are not going to use foul language, we are not going to discriminate, we are going to be welcoming to everyone else. We are going to accept as people are. And we're going to try and have a little bit of positive attitude over here. This is how I think we can help each other out. Second thing is that in today's session, since it's a two-day webinar, so Khushi, this is I have already switched it to full screen on my laptop, but it does not show as full screen here.
Okay, ma'am, it'll happen eventually. You can go ahead.
Are my slides changing?
No, ma'am.
Yeah, there's a lag here, and okay. So I'll try to explain in a manner where you might not need the visual immediately. So, yes, the second point that I was coming to was that since it's a 2-day session, what I have basically worked upon is that today it's going to be more of information, knowledge, and understanding building. Because if I don't know myself, I don't know how I work, how my body works, how my brain works, I won't be able to help myself. Because stress is different for everyone, and everyone has different reactions to stress, and there are different techniques that would work, that would suit one, like couple of people better. There would be different techniques that would be suiting others well. So what techniques would be beneficial for me and what would suit me will all together depend upon how I basically function. So today's webinar is less focused upon the techniques and more focused upon how it happens, the stress part, and also be covering major points of anxiety here also. And the third point is that these techniques, whichever are being mentioned today and which are going to be mentioned tomorrow, are only for management purposes. So it's for stress management and anxiety management, not treatment. Do not get confused, because stress and anxiety is something that, like chronic stress, something that a person is suffering from for a long time, and anxiety. These are things that may need therapy, that may need medicines also, but this is not for treatment purposes. This is how you can basically manage well with the symptoms. And fourth thing, like I mentioned, the more you interact, the better it gets you. All right. So My first slide basically says what is stress and what is anxiety. So a lot of people don't know the difference between what is stress and what is anxiety. And a little bit about it, stress is about something that is actually present. It could be present in the present moment, and it is an identifiable threat. That means we identify the threat. It's not cooked up in our heads. It's not about what if this happens, what if that happens, what if this goes wrong, what if that goes wrong, but an actual problem that is there. So, for example, taking an exam is actually going to happen. That is stress. Yeah, Khushi, you want to say something?
No, ma'am, you can go ahead.
But the slides are not changing. I'm facing a problem here.
You can just reshare again. I think if
Okay,
that works.
all right. Is my screen visible? My slide?
Yes, ma'am. Can you
Okay,
change it once so I can check if it's yes, yes, it's fine.
okay. Thank you, Khushi. So, I was focusing upon what is the difference between stress and anxiety. So, stress is about an actual thing that is happening. It could be anything like taking an exam, giving a presentation, anything that is there in the present moment and has an identifiable threat. That means the threat is actually present, that is stress. And anything that may or may not have an identifiable threat but leads to a lot of what ifs is anxiety. So, let's say I have an exam and I haven't prepared for it, that is stress. But I have an exam, I have prepared for it, but what if I fail? That is anxiety, because that's a what if. So stress leads to anger prompted by circumstances. It leads to digestive issues. It leads to racing thoughts. Ends when stressful situation trigger ends. So these are overlapping symptoms. We can see both in both of the cases pretty much. And anxiety disorder is different from symptoms of anxiety. Let's not get into the technicality though. Anxiety is about racing thoughts also, negative thoughts. There's an impending doom. What if this goes wrong? What if that goes wrong? What if I'm not able to do this? What if this happens? There's shortness of breath. You may feel chest tightness. You may feel palpitations. You may feel problems in breathing. There's intense worry, a lot of intense worry which may or may not have identifiable threat. A lot of times we see that anxiety mostly occurs without an identifiable threat, with the what ifs. And all the other things that have been mentioned here, they're pretty much overlapping symptoms, but I hope you understand the difference between stress and anxiety now a little bit. If you get confused between anxiety, do not worry about it because anxiety will be covering up a lot more detail tomorrow. And now we're moving to what are the types of stress. So whoever says that stress is bad does not know that there are two types of stress. And one is good for us, other is bad for us. So eustress is what we call as a good stress for us, which motivates us, which helps us. So for example, I have an exam coming up and I am pumped up for it. I want to do well in it. I want to perform well in it. So I'm studying. That is making me feel productive. That is making me feel motivated. That is boosting my dopamine. And all of the I have those happy, positive emotions. I'm working in a very good manner, not a lot of fatigue. That is eustress. The stress is basically helping me achieve my goals. This is short term. This is within our coping abilities. That means it is a stress, but we cope well with it and we actually perform well with it. Distress, on the other hand, is what we usually know as stress as a concept. This is anxiety inducing. This is negative. It leads to negative thoughts, negative emotions. It is outside our coping abilities. We feel that no, I won't be able to cope with it. I won't be able to deal with it. It decreases performance. So let's say nervousness, stage fright, These are all types of distress, the bad stress. And these can further, if they are experienced in higher intensities or for longer durations or both, they can lead to mental health symptoms such as anxiety, depression, or other mental health problems. So here we need to understand that there's a very thin line between eustress and distress. It's not that certain situations will only trigger eustress, certain situations will only trigger distress. Rather, it's it can be completely situational. It's like today I might feel motivated to take an exam, tomorrow I might feel distressed to take another subject exam. So this is changeable, this is variable. And another thing that impacts over here is that individuality. There are individual differences, right? So let's say if I have a friend who is a good speaker, who does really well on the stage, who speaks really brilliantly, and I'm not. So she's going to look forward to that stage presentation, to that speaking, right? And she's going to have that eustress, pumping up, motivated, everything. And if I have stage fright, or I don't do well on stage, I'm not a good speaker, that will cause me distress. So it's not divided into parts that this circumstance will only lead to distress, this circumstance will only lead to eustress. It's more about the reaction that we have to a stressor. And now, like the examples I have given, getting promoted at work. So, for example, for one person, getting promoted at work is something that is very rewarding, and they feel happy about it. They feel boosted up, and they're very motivated also. And let's say there's another person who is getting stressed because they feel that now there are going to be more responsibilities. How will I deal with it? And there's going to be a lot more that I have to take care of now, and a lot more projects, and they might feel distressed. So it's varying. Now I need you all to basically make a list of your personal stressors, and we are considering distress here. And what are the things that cause you distress and the negative thoughts attached to the stress? So what I really need from you all is what are the thoughts that you basically have when there's stress, the negative thoughts. Be open to writing them down in the comment section in the chat, and I'll be taking those up. Okay, so we're waiting for like a minute or two while you all write down about the thoughts, about your negative thoughts. And do participate more. There are no right or wrong answers. It's not like you will be judged. You're welcomed here, and it's okay. You're only learning. So there's this person who has mentioned that they feel light, dizzy always, have BP pulse changes due to it, make checking constant monitoring, etizola 0.25 for anxiety, BP med stopped 3 days ago. Okay, suffering for last 3 years. Okay. So this basically seems like symptoms of anxiety disorder, and since you are already on etizola, it makes us understand, gives us the clarity that this is anxiety disorder that you might be having. And what we need to do here is that since you're already on medications, try visiting your psychiatrist again for the medications change in the treatment plan. Also, along with that, take up therapy, because there is certain amount of things that we can control. There are certain amount of things that we cannot control. So anxiety is both brain and mind. It's not just one. And when it comes to brain, the medicines will take care of it with the medicines changing, basically balancing the neurochemistry there. And when it comes to the mind, therapy sessions work really well there, because you will be there learning a lot more things about how to manage anxiety, what anxiety is, what is suiting you, how you can validate yourself more. So anxiety is more about I fear in a lot of situations, and that fear is basically irrational. So we work upon a lot of things in anxiety. Majorly CBT is used, that is cognitive behavioral therapy, which will be applicable in your case, as I'm understanding. So try visiting for therapy, and it will definitely help you out beautifully. Okay, so college admissions lead to stress. All right. What if I'm not able to meet what is expected out of me? Okay. Family conflict, procrastinate, not productive. When I feel light dizzy, feel BP pulse rising and falling and losing control. Okay. All right. So let's take up one thing at a time, and which is college administration. So, what causes you stress is college administration, and I'm sure there must be negative thoughts about related to it, right? Inability to pay my own bills is a distress to me. Yes, I completely get it. Try to write down your thoughts. Like, what are the thoughts that are triggered by these stressors? What if I'm not able to meet what is expected out of me? Okay, right. So this is one distressful thought. Social situations, judgment, fear. All right. Guys, try to write down your thoughts. Like thoughts as they come. What if I'm not able to do this? What if that happens? What if this goes wrong? Something like, what if I fail in an exam? What if I'm not able to manage with my finances? Whatever basically comes, just write them down as it is. Okay. So yes, your medicines are already uh, going on, and the treatment would be, I think, working. Try to communicate with your psychiatrist again. Online therapies do work, and in the past, if it did not help much, that's all right because it's not just about therapy working or not working. It's more about if we match with the therapist. If this thing is basically matching. Sometimes it happens that we get confused or the therapist gets confused. Do this, try another therapist maybe, or the same therapist, try therapy again, and it takes time. So don't be impatient with it. It's not going to happen in 1 or 2 sessions. It's going to be a time taking procedure, but of course you will be helped beautifully. Multitasking at work, constant feeling that I might lose out on the tasks, sweating, restlessness. Okay. I have thoughts like, what if I die? All right. So I can see people here are already seem to have symptoms of anxiety, which we are definitely going to focus more on tomorrow. But yes, so like I mentioned, today's webinar is less about techniques and more about understanding. And the content that I have is definitely going to help you guys out more with these problems. Inability to pay my own bills is what makes me feel worthless. And what if I'm not able to meet my family's or friends' expectations? Okay. So for now, we'll put these thoughts on hold. We are not working on them right now because I have a plan. So now coming back to understanding how stress works and basically the difference between eustress and distress. So like I mentioned, there's no a fine rigid line between eustress or distress. There is no categorization that these things come under eustress or these things come under distress. Rather, it's about what stress levels we are going through and how it elevates. So when eustress elevates, it increases beyond our coping abilities, that leads to distress. For example, I have an exam coming up and I'm very motivated to take that exam, let's say hypothetically. And I'm wanting to study more and more. And as I do that, I realize that as much as I'm studying, I'm feeling more rewarded. The dopamine is secreting here every now and then. The dopamine is helping me. And dopamine is what? Dopamine is basically a hormone that helps you with the reward feeling. Whenever you do a little thing and you feel good, that's the dopamine running in the brain. And I like that dopamine and it's addicting, so I keep doing the same task again and again. So I keep studying and I like it. I understood a particular concept and I did well. I took a test and I was doing well in it. My dopamine keeps running like that, and what happens is that I've exhausted my resources. Whatever my abilities were, my brain capacity, my physical capacity to sit and study, I've exhausted that. And what will that lead to? Exhaustion, burnout, stress. The eustress will then convert to distress. And here you can see an inverted bell curved model here, which basically shows how eustress can turn into distress. So when it comes to arousal level, arousal of the nervous system we are talking about, and level of stress, and the other thing is performance. So when our body is optimally aroused, our nervous system is giving that energy that we need to go about a task, and we are doing it pretty well, that's okay. But when there is the energy goes down, we are going through exhaustion, we are going through fatigue, we have overutilized our resources, then what is happening is that it took a lot of time for me, and I expanded that eustress level. That eustress, I expanded upon it. I was working and chasing that eustress too much, and I was hard on myself, wasn't taking breaks, and I didn't take care of myself well. That basically turned to distress. And what will that lead to? That will lead to symptoms like I cannot study anymore, avoidance. I just can't study for my exam. What if this goes bad? What if that goes bad? What if I fail in the exam? What if I'm not able to perform well? What if I even forget the concepts that I've studied before? And I cannot face the books. I'll just close them and keep them away, probably spend my day in bed, would not even feel happy. These are all the things that happen when eustress turns into distress. And now we are going to cover about stress, how it's a perception also. It's not just what the situation holds for us, but it's majorly about how we react to it. So there's this model in cognitive behavioral therapy, which is a therapy that we utilize um, within therapy sessions. So we, as psychologists, we utilize this therapy to help clients with symptoms such as anxiety, depression, OCD, stress. All these things are majorly covered here. And this ABC model says that there's A, which is activating event, there's B, which is belief about the activating event, and then there's C, which is the consequence. And ABC model says that A does not lead to C, which is activating events such as taking an exam does not lead to consequence, that is feeling stressed. Rather, it's the belief, it's the B about it. And in ABC model, we have to focus upon the belief system, because if we have maladaptive, unhealthy, irrational belief system, that is going to lead to negative consequences. So let's say I have an activating event such as I need to perform on stage. Okay, repetitive examples, I'll think of more. So I have to perform on stage, and that is the activating event that has to happen, right? What is that triggering? If that triggers beliefs like I won't be able to do it, oh no, I can't do it, I'm going to panic, I'm going to fall, I can't do it, I can't face the stage, then it's going to lead to consequences such as stress and anxiety, me panicking about it, me not being able to do the task well. But if I basically work upon my belief, make it more adaptive, something like, okay, I have to perform on the stage. I generally do not do well with it. But what is it that I can do to help myself? Maybe I can talk to some seniors, maybe I can visit some professors, maybe I can take some help, maybe I can rehearse, maybe I can work on my speech more. And these are adaptive beliefs that are going to lead to good things, good outcomes in behaviors, such as feeling more confident while I, climb that stage, and reducing down stress and anxiety. So along with these things, do not get confused with a lot of models. They're pretty basic and easy. So this model is about general adaptation syndrome, which basically means how our body adapts to stress. There's this brain that adapts to stress. There's this body and mind that adapts to stress, and we are understanding how it adapts to stress. So it's pretty similar to the model over here, and I'm going to tell you um, what is mutual in both of these. So in general adaptation syndrome, there's stage one, which is alarm, which is basically I'm faced with a stressor, anything, and I'm just faced with a stressor in this stage. Now the second stage is resistance, where my fight response is basically activated. So in case you don't know, our body functions in a way that we have this fight or flight response. There is basically fight, flight, freeze, and fawn, but I'll be taking up fight and flight response here. And this is evolutionary. So that means this is our survival skills. So when we were, early humans and we had to survive, that was our main target, to basically survive with everything that was going on in the world. And it was hard for us humans to survive, and we were working mostly on the survival skills. And how did we take care of ourselves? We were alert. Even while we were sleeping, we needed that alertness so that if there's any danger out there, we are able to either fight with it, fight from it, or flight from it. So let's say if there's a wild animal and I'm sleeping as an early human. So I need my bodily resources to be in such a way that even while I'm sleeping, I'm alert enough to, when I'm faced with a situation, something like a wild animal is there, I'm either able to fight it or run away from it just for survival. Because my whole point of life is surviving. Like if that is the whole, that is the topmost priority. I want to survive first. Everything else comes second, right? So from there, we are carrying anxiety in our DNA. It is evolution, and our DNA carries that anxiety. And now that anxiety, can you hear me? Am I audible?
Yes, ma'am, you are audible.
Okay,
Yes,
so my
ma'am.
screen is frozen. All right. So when in that time I was faced with that anxiety, that helped me as an early human. But now I'm pretty safe, right? I have my own house. I don't have wild animals around me. I am not fighting for survival. Back then, I mean, humans pretty much were. But the anxiety has been carried through the DNA. And now I still have those survival skills. I again and again switch on to that fight or flight. And now this fight or flight has a different aspect. I'm not trying to save myself to survive. Rather, I'm getting worried about daily tasks, something like how I perform at work. What if I'm not able to do this? What if I don't get a promotion? How will I be able to manage with my finances? Um, anything, anything can be there that basically triggers that fight or flight response. So in the first stage, I'm faced with a stressor. In the second stage of resistance, my body is trying to resist the stressor and trying to cope from the stress. This is basically the fight response, that I'm like, okay, I can deal with it, I'll be fine. But if for a prolonged period of time my fight response is active, I have basically overutilized my body's resources. I have exhausted myself, I have exhausted my brain, my body, and I need more of rest. So I switched to flight mode, which is basically the third stage, exhaustion. And what would flight mode look like? I don't want to go to work. I don't want to take that exam. I'm trying to avoid whatever is giving me stress. I want to stay in my room. I don't want to talk to a lot of people. I'm facing a burnout and I'm not even enjoying things. Even if I'm taking a break, it's not an enjoyable break. It's not rejuvenating. Rather, I feel like I'm being more unproductive. That is what the cycle of stress is like. And if you can see here, pretty much the similar inverted bell curve model, eustress is where, when we are practicing eustress for longer periods of time than our body allows us to, that is what leads to distress and exhaustion, burnout, stress, avoidance, flight response. I hope you can understand what is the difference, and I hope you can understand what are the similar points here. And now we are coming to impact of stress on mental health. So I basically made the material of the webinar in such a way that you are able to expand your knowledge. You're able to understand what is functional, what is dysfunctional, what is going on in your body, what is going on in your mind, what are your triggers, what would be the problem, right? And less about, okay, these are the techniques, these are the things. So If you want to know more about the techniques, I think you can easily Google them. If you want to know impact of stress, such as what is the physical effects, what is the uh, mental effects of stress. So all these things you can pretty much Google and find information. Here I'm trying that we have that perspective to understand our own selves better. Other things also will be taken care of and mentioned tomorrow. And they're going to be more worksheets and material coming up for you guys. So impact of stress on mental health, nervous system alteration. So like I talked about fight or flight is survival mechanism. It gives us a sense that I'm unsafe. If I'm unsafe is only when I'll be able to fight or flight from that situation, which was helping us as we were early humans. But now that fight or flight is not really helping us that much. It is leading to excessive anxiety, converting into anxiety disorders. And for every little thing, if I'm having that fight or flight response, that seems that this is the stress or anxiety that has been here for some time. It could be chronic, and my nervous system has altered. So, if this is the balanced nervous system, which means that our nervous system comprises of our brain and all the vital organs and functioning. Okay, so you can probably understand that whenever we are faced with a stressor and whenever we feel anxious, for example, we have to take an exam again. Okay, so I might have problems breathing. My heart will be pounding probably. I'll have that pain in the chest. I'll probably have digestion problems also. I will be fearing, panicking, and I'll be like everywhere, right? So these are all the manifestations of how anxiety manifests to physical symptoms also. Anxiety is not just about the mind and brain, rather it leads to physical symptoms, sweating, stomach aches, nausea, vomiting. All these are stress indicators and symptoms. So when for a prolonged period of time, my nervous system, which was supposed to be here pretty much balanced, is not at balance. Every now and then it reacts in a fight or flight manner. So my nervous system has become more sensitive than it should. It's somewhere here. It's hyper alert, more aroused than it should. And what is this leading to? That this is leading to even more anxiety, such as me panicking more and more on every little thing, me feeling anxious about every little thing now, me not able to go about my daily chores, my daily life, and everything and anything causes me stress and anxiety. This is when we know that problem is here, that this is not normal, and we might need help. And this is where we want to bring this thing to. We need to bring it to the state of balance. So our nervous system gets altered, and this is where we need to alter it back to the normal levels so that our nervous system can help us also in coping from that anxiety. There's excessive cortisol release. So cortisol is basically the stress hormone. Whenever I have stress, this cortisol gets released in my brain, and whenever it's that I'm under constant state of stress, then my cortisol is being released for prolonged period of time. That means my neurochemistry, my brain chemistry is also getting altered. And this is when I know I need help now. I need more relaxation. I need to bring my nervous system and my brain chemistry to more homeostasis. Negative thoughts. So stress does not generally lead to a lot of positive thoughts unless it's eustress. Rather, distress has a negative direction, so it leads to negative thoughts. And distress does not deal well with uncertainty. So this is when we know that if we are faced with uncertainty and we face a lot of stress or anxiety, this means that our nervous system, our brain is dysregulated, and we need to bring it back to regulation. Emotional dysregulation is another thing, throwing tantrums, anger issues, crying, worrying too much. These are all the things that show that I might not be emotionally very regulated. There's procrastination and perfectionism. So, opposed to like contrary to the popular belief that perfectionism is good, it's not. So, perfectionism is basically glorified in our culture, and also in our working systems, institutions such as schools and colleges and workspaces. So, perfectionism is more about I cannot accept myself unless I'm doing a particular task 10 on 10. Even if I go about 9 on 10, which is good, which is really nice, I don't accept myself for 9 on 10. I will only be able to accept myself when I reach that 10 on 10. And how unrealistic is that? Like, I can't be 10 on 10 and everything that I do. And whenever I'm not able to accomplish that 10 on 10, I don't feel good. I feel more anxious. That leads to more stress. When I'm working for a very long time to get that 10 on 10, there are many things that I'm missing out on. I'm overly stressed. I do not have a work life balance. I'm not able to relax. I'm basically working day and night. My body is not relaxing. And I'm sort of throwing everything away to get that 10 on 10, which is sort of not very fair to my own self. So, this is where perfectionism, I'm breaking a myth here in case you didn't know that perfectionism is not a healthy thing. Procrastination is about delaying stuff and it's not about laziness. Another myth buster. Procrastination is not about laziness, it's about stress levels being higher than my coping abilities, and I go in that flight mode that okay, I have this task and I need to get it done, but today I won't be doing it. Let me just watch a movie or let me go out with my friends, let me party, and tomorrow I'll be able to do it. So this sounds like I'm being careless or I'm being lazy about the task, but it's more about I do not feel that I have the resources right now to be able to face that stressor. And so I'm delaying it. That tomorrow I might have those resources. Tomorrow I might be able to face it better. And so I'm also looking for relaxation because I do not feel relaxed. And this is how procrastination works. Okay, if days go by, and it's not like all these days you were enjoying or you were having a fun time, because somewhere deep down you had that stress always popping up in the head, like I have this task that isn't completed yet, I have this task that needs to be done. So that's this prolonged stress again that we are going through. Then there's negative self perception. Stress can lead to negative self perception because distress, like I mentioned, has a negative direction. And negative direction can go in any way. It can be about people, that people are bad. It can be about me, that I'm not good enough, I'm incapable, I'm not worthy of happiness, I don't deserve good things, I won't be able to do well in life, I can't be successful. These are all the symptoms that you can see, side effects of stress and anxiety. This is how our negative thinking activates when we are faced with a threatening situation or we perceive a threat. And a stressor can basically trigger these distress symptoms. We may go into isolation. We may go into isolation, that is avoidance, flight mode again, and there can be burnout, that is again exhaustion of our resources, bodily and mind resources. And that leads us in a state that I am completely exhausted and I cannot just go about even the bare minimum. Okay. So, impact of stress on mental health, and there are some stress elevators that I have mentioned here. So, I need to know, if I know how my body functions, I need to know what triggers my brain and body so much that it gives out such reactions. So, if I know it better, I will be able to probably manage these triggers, right? So improper or reduced breaks. Improper and reduced breaks basically mean that I have too much work and I'm not taking a break. Or if I am taking a break, I'm probably scrolling on the social media. I'm watching my television. I'm not taking a break that is recharging me. I'm drained of energy through the task that I'm going about, and I'm not having enough recharge. That would deplete my resources and I need to get back. I need to recharge. There are recharging methods, not just being in bed, because that's not a very healthy recharge mechanism, I would say. Sometimes it helps, sometimes it doesn't. And recharging and breaks is not just about physical break, me not going to work or me just being on bed, being in rest all through the day. It's not just that. There are three types of rest majorly. First is physical, of course. Second is mental. That while I'm taking the break, I'm not thinking of that stressor. I'm not thinking of the negative thoughts. And this is relaxing me. This gives me a mental break that makes me happy. Whatever I'm doing, something that makes me happy. Probably I'm painting. Probably I'm out with my friends. And the third type of break is spiritual break, which basically means that relaxation of deeper soul level relaxation, where I'm meditating, where I'm having those deep breaths, when I'm connecting with my own self. Because if I'm too much connecting with the work and people around me, with family and life, and I'm not connecting with myself enough, that leads to stress and anxiety too. Preoccupation with stressor, that is overthinking about the stressor, again, the perception of stress, overwhelming. So whenever let's say I'm not faced with such an intense stressor, if the stressor requires me to have that reaction of let's say 20, but my fear and my anxiety stress levels have a reaction of 50, that means somewhere this stressor is not producing it, rather the belief, in the ABC model, my belief is magnifying it, right? So magnification generally happens through the thoughts a lot. Am I overthinking about the stressor? I have to do this, I have to do this, I have to do that, I need to get this done, and what will happen if this doesn't happen? And all these things are very overwhelming for the mind. And what it does is it goes in that fight or flight survival mechanism. So, not saying that don't think about the stressor, but there's a balance to everything. Understand where your balance lies. There are negative thoughts and negative self talk, which can increase the stress. So if I'm faced with a situation where I have to perform and I tell myself that I'm incapable and I cannot perform, that is only increasing my stress and anxiety, not helping me in any way. Doubting myself, doubting my potential, doubting my worth, all these things, will I ever be successful? All these things just lead to more stress and anxiety. Then choosing stress behavior for unhealthy dopamine release. Now, what we went through was I took you through this topic of dopamine release and how it can become an addiction also. But if I'm choosing that stress behavior every now and then because I feel rewarded, because I'm liking that dopamine hit, because I feel happy, so that is also bad for my health. Because if I go about a certain task, let's say um, I have to I have to do well at work, and I made a particular document so well that my boss praised me, and that praise was rewarding. So dopamine, right? Now I want to indulge in that again. I want to hear that praise again from my boss. So what will I do? I will overwork myself. Every time I will try to be a 10 on 10, or I will try and do that thing, so whatever is asked out of me at the workplace so well that I'm seeking that approval, that um, that praise from my boss. And this is how I'm basically indulging in that unhealthy dopamine hit cycle, because I am again overutilizing my own resources. Having unrealistic expectations from self, something like I can take up 100 tasks in a day, I can take up these many tasks in a day. I need to understand where my energy lies, what all things I'm good at, what all things I'm not so good at, and weigh them down. I am a human, I can make mistakes, and I cannot know everything very well, and it's okay that way. So whatever things that I'm good at, I'll probably be able to deal well there. But whatever things I'm not good at, I'll probably be needing more time, more energy for those things. But if I have really unrealistic standards for myself, I need to look so well all the time. I need to be this much appearance wise. I need to have this body figure. I need to feel, I need to have this appearance. Or in other context, something like I need to keep performing to this level every now and then. I cannot go beyond, like below this. I need to keep succeeding. I cannot fail. These are all unrealistic expectations of self that are only leading to more stress and anxiety. Improper diet and rest. So my brain works well when it gets proper nutrition and rest and all the things that we discussed. So I need my brain and my brain needs me. So it's not a one-way street. Lack of hobbies and leisure also increase stress. So every now and then it's very important to connect back with myself, however I do it. I can meditate, I can paint, I can sing, whatever makes me more of me. Why am I different from others? Because I like this particular genre of music. Because I like these type of movies more. I like this patterns, designs more. Whatever makes me different, I need to connect with myself more and more. And that is only how I'll be able to cherish myself more. Then there are unhealthy coping mechanisms such as perfectionism leading to dissatisfaction, like we have discussed about, and procrastination leading to increased stress. And below that, I have mentioned that stress is a reaction to real or perceived threat. So it's not the activating event leading to stress, any situation leading to stress. Rather, it's the belief, the perception about it that I feel stressed, that I cannot do this. How will I go about it? All these things majorly lead to more stress. So now I want you all to write down, since you've understood what these things are like, the stress and anxiety, how they impact you, what we basically need, what are the types of breaks, how our nervous system reacts. You might be in a better position to understand your own self now, that what are the triggers, what basically every now and then leads to that fight or flight. So why don't you guys just write down few things that you think can help you recover from a burnout or exhaustion?
Ma'am, some of them have asked some questions in the comment. If you can answer them.
Okay, all right. I'll be taking up questions majorly towards the end of the session so that it does not lead to, it does not break my flow here. Okay, okay, okay. People are participative. I really appreciate that. I keep exercising, which leads to that dopamine release, which leads to exhaustion, which leads to overwhelm by thoughts while working out because I work out alone. Okay, so exercising lead to that dopamine, which basically leads to exhaustion, and that leads to overwhelmed by thoughts while working out because I work out alone. So what you need to do probably here is that the dopamine release is not the problem, because this is naturally what we need when we are going for exercising. Exercising not just helps our physical health, it also regulates our brain chemistry. So whatever alterations, imbalances happening in the brain, it pretty much helps there. So maybe you're over exercising, that could lead to exhaustion. You need to understand what are your energy levels, what is your level of working out. Let's say if you're a beginner, if you have been working out for some time now, but you need to know that working out has much to do with energy levels also, because if I overwork my physical body also, that's going to lead to burnout too. That's going to make me feel like, okay, I'm not getting enough energy to go about other tasks. That is going to lead to negative direction, something like negative thoughts. How will I do this? People do that, but I'm not able to do that. And that can also lead to negative thoughts and burnout. And while you work out alone, try to figure out some strategies that you can do to help yourself. If you're a music person, switch on some music. If you can bring in some company, do that. Whatever you can do to make it more enjoyable, so that dopamine is releasing in a more balanced way and not leading to exhaustion. And the anxiety when I am on my rest, that is Sunday. Okay. I will take that up. I have some things planned here. Continuously more sweating without any stress or anxiety. Okay. So if you are very sure that there is no stress or anxiety and you're continuously sweating more, you may consider visiting a doctor or physician for that. how do we come to know whether our anxiety is good or bad? Just like we mentioned, like we discussed about in the initial, when in the initial time of the webinar, that we have to figure out whether the stress is eustress or distress. If I'm feeling motivated, if I'm feeling productive, if that stress is basically energizing me and making me more alert to go about that task, that is helping me. But if it's draining me, or if it's leading to more of exhaustion, it's making me feel more negative about myself or the situation or the stressor, that is distress. So that is when you know the stress, that is a bad stress. And now you need to have some healthy coping mechanisms to deal with those bad stressors. The picture quality seems to be very low, hence we cannot see the diagram on screen clearly. Okay, so for now, what I can do is let's go about it like this only. I'll probably try and share the PPT so that you all can have. I'll ask Kirti to do that, so you guys can have material read upon. Ma'am, I've tried therapy for anxiety, but it didn't help much. Many times it does happen that we feel that therapy is not working out for us, and there could be many reasons for that. Let's say I went for only one or two sessions and I felt that it's not working out for me because it's a process. It's going to take time. It's going to take, you know, some sessions. And along with that, am I doing the homework or not? Because one therapy session in 1 week cannot lead me to basically treat that anxiety or feel better. Rather, am I going home in those 6 days while before I have the next therapy session? Am I working on it enough and well enough to be helping myself? Third thing is that sometimes anxiety levels are higher than therapy can basically treat. So psychiatric treatment is involved there. So you might also need that. So I would say that try and go for therapy again and discuss this with your therapist. It's very important to discuss these issues and give your feedback to the therapist. Don't worry about what the therapist will take it like. They won't be offended. We basically don't get offended if our clients are coming back to us and telling us that it's not working out. Rather, we get and try to understand that what are the particular techniques that could be working for you, what are the particular techniques that are not working for you, because these techniques don't work for everyone. We need to know your match, we need to know your suit. And if you give your feedback, we'll be able to help you better. That is how it works. What if I am not able to meditate because of the constant racing thoughts? Meditation is something that needs to be learned. It's not something that we can do by ourselves and we can know the proper way of. So it's always advisable that you go for a program where meditation is being taught. Any type of meditation would work. And racing thoughts is not the problem. This is initially what happens. But if you're trying to meditate on your own without having a proper structure to it, without knowing how to do it, that could basically lead to some problems. So it's advisable that you go to an expert to learn meditation first and then go about it. So, how to recover from burnout and exhaustion? Ordering food. Okay, that is sort of a reward system that I have for myself. I am stressed and I want to reward myself. I want to validate myself. So I say, okay, let's have a good meal. All right. If I don't work out till failure, I can't sleep. This is perfectionism. This is pretty much you being very hard on yourself. That is majorly the problem because you're not understanding your body's requirements. That I have particular energy levels, and some day it's going to be better, some day it's going to be lower. Some days I might not even feel like going to the gym, and it's very human to feel that way because we all have those days where we don't feel like going to work or going to the gym or going to meet friends. That is very human. But if I curse myself for not being able to do that, that is where the problem is in my beliefs, the way I speak to myself. So what you need to do, Ria, is basically be more easy on yourself. I can see you're being too hard on yourself, and being too hard on your own self can only increase. It can only increase that anxiety and stress. It's not going to help you. You might be able to go about that task, but you'll probably feel more drained. And preoccupied with those negative thoughts. So regulation is need here instead of the workout. That is what we need to focus upon. Okay. So here are some techniques for stress management. And today, like I mentioned, I'm not giving a lot of techniques because it generally happens, it's a free of cost 2 days webinar. People are going to say, yes, ma'am, we'll do that. And then they're going to forget about it altogether. And these material will not be utilized. So my whole purpose was that these techniques, whatever they are, might be resting in your phone somewhere if I provide you with them, and also Google can help you out there. So rather, why not try and help you with the knowledge and understanding of your own body and mind, which you will carry, which you can remind yourself every now and then. It's not something that you have to put effort into doing or be consistent with, but it's like it will pop up. Okay, that was covered there. I might be switching to my survival. I might be in the fight mode. I might be in the flight mode. I might be exhausting my body's resources, and I probably need more help there. I need to help myself. I need to be easy on myself. This is my approach. Okay, I'll take that up. So, stress monitoring is very important, including what all things are creating that stress, which we call a stressor. So, what are the things that are triggering me? What are the stress? What are my stressors? What is the intensity of stress? So, a particular thing can lead to out of zero, like if I have a scale of 0 to 10, one particular stressor may have the intensity of 2, the other may have intensity of 5, the next one may have intensity of 3, right? So I need to analyze which particular trigger, which particular stressor is causing me more and more anxiety or stress. What is more intense? What I need to focus first upon, and then second, and then third. Prioritize basically. And stage of exhaustion also. Like we discussed upon eustress and distress, and we also discussed upon the general adaptation syndrome, which is the 3 stages: alarm, resistance, and then there was exhaustion. So where is my stressor putting me in? This is what we need to majorly first focus upon. I need to monitor my stress. If I don't know my stress, I won't be able to help my stress. Work with negative thoughts. Instead of I can't, use I can statements. This can be highly beneficial to you because, like I mentioned before, it's the belief that holds more value and that can magnify the stress or minimize it. It can lead to unhealthy coping mechanisms, it can lead to healthy coping mechanisms. It's all about your perception. So, we need to be in a place where we are realistically perceiving it instead of those things that are getting magnified here. So, instead of I can't do this, I can't do that, use more of I can statements for your own self. This is going to help you out beautifully. Change negative self talk to positive one. For example, I'm capable of doing this, I'm capable of taking this exam, I'm capable of achieving this little thing. Then there's positive reflection. There are times where we feel so stressed and so anxious that we can only look at the negative and the worst case scenario, the most negative picture. And we need to remind ourselves then that we have had a life before this moment also, where we have been doing pretty fine. Like we have gone through obstacles before, we've had struggles, and we did pretty well. There were points and times where I was proud of myself. There were times when I couldn't imagine I could face, and I dealt well with it. It could be it could be something as subtle as clearing an exam that I couldn't think of. It could be as subtle as getting out of the bed when I felt that I couldn't do it. I'm just so exhausted. It could be like being in depression and not wanting to have a meal, and I had it. These are all things that you need to reflect upon, that there have been days that I've been through and I've dealt with it beautifully. So I can also. Focusing upon how I've made through the difficult times and how far I've come. Self coping statements such as I'm strong, I'm worthy of good things in life, I deserve good, um, I'm capable, I can do these things. These are all self coping statements that basically help us in coping. So if I'm telling myself statements that are helping me in coping, something like, you know what, this problem is actually there, this stress is actually there, but you can do it, then I'll have more confidence and I'm basically recharging myself here. I'm basically accumulating those positive neurotransmitters, those hormones which are going to help me more instead of going in that negative direction, exhausting myself more and falling a prey to burnout. Self coping statements, self validation. Like what is happening here is that in Ria's case is there's, as far as I can understand, there's lack of self validation. I have a target, I need to achieve it. I've I was at 0. I have a target of, let's say, reaching at 100. I'm at 50 and I cannot see anything but 100. I'm only looking upward. That is 100, 100, 100. And until I reach that 100, I won't be happy. But I'm not looking back and seeing that I've come from 0 to 50, which is good enough, which is really, really nice. Probably there were times I thought that I couldn't do it, but I'm here. So I need to validate myself more, that it's okay for me to feel exhausted. It's okay for me to feel like feel on some days that I don't want to go to the gym. It's okay for me to take a break. Everyone has that 1 day break, and I will also need that too. My physical body needs rest, my brain needs more rest. It's okay for me to say no to social situations, to say no to parties when I don't feel like it. What I need to do is be easy on myself, is to take care of my own self. And it's okay to feel stressed, it's okay to cry, it's okay to feel sad. Maybe the situation was like that. I don't have to be hard on myself. When we try to support and help ourselves more, our mental health tries even more to help us. And also, I am safe reminder. So like I mentioned, in the fight or flight survival mode, every now and then that stress and anxiety triggers, we have this sense that I'm not safe. So if I'm at workplace and I'm feeling anxious, I'll be like, I'm not safe here. I need to run home. I need to be with my friends. I do not feel safe here. So those are all the concepts related to unsafety which are perceived, not really there. No one's harming you at the workplace. Nothing's going as bad as things are in your head, right? So you need more of I am safe reminders, and whenever possible, verbally too. Like I am safe and I need to give myself evidence for that too. Okay, I am in a safe environment, there are no safety issues here, I am with my colleagues who with whom I share a nice rapport. I have my boss, I have, if I'm faced with some problem, I can probably discuss that with my boss or with my colleagues. I can find out a solution, work on that. I am safe because I do not have to give my 100 all the time. And it's okay, some days are slow, some days are light, and that's okay. I am safe because I have my own self and I can take care of my own self. Now we are going back to the first exercise that we did, where we wrote down our negative thoughts. Remember when I asked you to write down your negative thoughts? What are your stressors and what are the negative thoughts attached to them? Now since we have learned a little bit about self validation, self coping, and positive reflection, I am safe, positive self talk, let's try for like a minute or two. This is the most important exercise over here. Okay. So try and change your previously written negative thoughts to more validating, realistic, and helpful ones. You're validating your own self to the healthy amount. You're helping yourself. You're helping yourself cope. And these are realistic, not the what ifs. Can you try and do that? Mention them in the chat box. I want to see how you guys help yourself here, because I know that you guys have been doing that very beautifully. So while you guys type down all these thoughts in the chat box, and you can mention your questions here also, and Ria, I'll be taking up your question too. And if I have missed out any, you may retype it again. Let me just cover the last slide for today, which is change your thoughts about the stressor and to more validating ones. Since we have another session tomorrow, where we are going to cover more of techniques and less of knowledge because it's mostly done today, and it's going to be about stress and anxiety both. Pretty much more about anxiety. So let's try this for today. You have like a day up till tomorrow. Whenever you're having a negative thought, write it down. Assess what the stressor is, what the intensity is, and what stage you are in of exhaustion. Is this eustress or distress? And try to change it to more realistic one. I'm not saying that change it to something that is not really there. Something like I won't be able to do it. No, I will be able to do it. That is very unrealistic. No, I cannot just talk to myself without evidence. So I need you to talk to yourself more in terms of evidence, more rationally, and something that is realistic also. And try to do this to at least two or three of your negative thoughts up till tomorrow. And maybe in the next session tomorrow, we can discuss these. We can see your progress, how much you're basically trying to help yourself now after this session. Remind yourself every now and then that I am safe, because our nervous system needs to feel safe to come out of that survival mode. And when you tell yourself, through the thoughts or verbally, that I am safe, and you provide yourself with evidence, that is where your nervous system will calm down. And like I always mention in all of my webinars, seek therapy. I can see a lot of people here are ones who require therapy. And therapy is for everyone. Do not fall prey for the stigma. The society is going to serve as an obstacle when we try to go for mental health help. And that is how things are. But you are stronger than that. Remember that. It's courageous to take therapy. It's not a weakness. It's not a problem. People, we in our education system, we do not have information about self-regulation, how to help our own selves. And this lacking, that factor lacking leads to us running in any and every direction. We are trying hit and trial for we're trying to go about it, we are trying many things, and a lot of unhealthy coping mechanisms also we are learning. Maladaptive patterns, negative thoughts for our own self, negative perception of others or the world or for my own self, negative behaviors in the cycle of alcohol abuse, smoking, drug abuse, anger, all these things. And not just these things, even anger issues, emotional dysregulation, any sort of trauma, anything that you feel is distressing is where therapy comes into picture. It's not only for disorders, it's for prevention also, and it's for everyone. You and I, it's for everyone. So do consider.
Are we done, ma'am?
Pretty much, yes. If people have any question, you may mention that in the comment section, and I'll be taking up the previously 2, 3 asked questions. Okay. Ma'am, I've tried therapy for anxiety, but it didn't help much. Same thing that I've mentioned before. Try again. There could be many factors associated with it. I just mentioned a few. And what you need to do is go back to your therapist and give that feedback to her. Maybe the same therapist, and if you feel like it's still not happening, you may try changing your therapist. Although the practices are pretty much evidence based, so you can try that. I'll be addressing that. Yes. So if I don't work out till failure, I can't sleep. And but I guess that helps me, and if I keep myself busy, I can get away from negative thoughts. Hmm. So what you're trying to use is avoidance as a coping mechanism, because you feel that if I'm working out, or if I'm distracted in any way, that is going to cut me off from my negative thinking, which is basically what is happening. But this is not the solution. This is not where you're healing. This is not what you can do all the time. So what is needed is that we're able to have more control over our thoughts. We're able to regulate our thoughts. Negative thoughts are very natural, happens with everyone. To what intensity, what extremity is something that needs to be addressed. And in your case, I feel that therapy is needed. So do consider that. I do make a priority list for my stressors, but apparently I end up doing nothing about it. Yes, that is what I talked about. So, a lot of us, while we are trying to deal with stress, we make to-do lists and checklists, and we have, like, let's say 10 things on the checklist. And if I'm doing that to deal well with stress, and I'm not able to do anything because I have that stress of doing those 10 things in the day. That is not realistic, probably, because I probably given my energy levels, I can't go about those 10 things that I have mentioned in the list. I'm setting unrealistic expectations from myself. Maybe what I have energy of is doing 3 or 4. So if I have more realistic approach towards it, I will be able to go about it instead of thinking and stressing about it more. And in your case, avoidance is happening, avoidance from the task, because the stress is accumulating more and more. That makes you more stressed about task and inability to go about it too. And this is the cycle of procrastination also. So we need to have realistic expectations, realistic targets. It's okay if I'm able to do 2 or 3 tasks on a particular day, given my energy levels. That's okay, because it's better than zero, right? And some days even zero is okay. If I do not have the energy, zero is okay. I mean, I do that. We all need that as humans. So give yourself more break. Try to be more easy on yourself, Priya. I can see you're being very hard on yourself. When I talk negatively, positive happens to me. Yes, I have heard this thing many times with my clients. And what anxiety makes us do is assume the worst case scenario, the most negative consequence possible. And we dwell on it, that this is going to happen, that is going to happen, there's this impending doom. And the worst case scenario is the only thing that I can think of, the worst in a situation. And if better things are happening, because it's not possible that all the time the worst case scenario is going to happen, right? But if better things are happening, whenever they're happening, I feel better. I feel more relaxed. Like my mind was taking me to a direction where, to which extent it did not happen. But then again, I am putting my brain and mind through so much negativity, so much exhaustion, obsessing about the worst case scenario. And I'm going in that prolonged state of fear. I'm putting myself there. And I'm thinking of all the coping skills that I might use there. And I might, just by overthinking and overthinking, I might feel like, okay, I can't even do it anymore. I might feel like crying. I might feel like just shutting my door and isolating myself. All because thinking about the worst case scenario, which is not even happening. That is again unrealistic. So this needs to be addressed in a more realistic and proper manner. I may not reach where I'm expected to be, but I'm better than yesterday. This is a very positive and beautiful thought over here. So expectations are okay if they're realistic. But if they're coming from people and they're unrealistic, that causes a problem. If it's coming from my own self and that is unrealistic, that's again a problem. So it's about a state of balance. What is realistic? What is balanced? What is healthy? What is unhealthy? All these things are what matters. Like it is mentioned here, that I may not reach where I'm expected to, because people may have any number of expectations from me, but it's my responsibility to take care of my own self. I'm better than yesterday. That means overall I'm improving. And that's what matters. Indian helpline, like you mentioned initially in the comment box, please seek therapy as well as visit your psychiatrist again. Mention these issues to your psychiatrist. They know your case better. I cannot understand your case from just a brief description of what you provide me with, and it would be very biased if I do that. So your psychiatrist, I feel, has been treating you for some time, even if it's, yeah, so I think you have been on medications for some time. Visit your psychiatrist again. Have this conversation with your psychiatrist. Let them know that these things are happening. I'm still feeling restless. I'm not able to deal well with it. Consider therapy. It's definitely going to help you out. And guys, if you have any other questions, or if you feel like, there's something that you might want to talk to me about or reach out to me for therapy sessions, I have this platform called Seeking My Mind, which is my Instagram platform. You may search Seeking My Mind. I've had all the logos on my slide. You can reach out to me there for anything, for advice, for help, for therapy sessions. You may reach out to me there. So that negative thought is beautifully changed to positive one now. Family, just give me just 2 minutes more, Kushi. Let me just take up these things. Family conflict is definitely something that takes up a lot of resources. It leads to chronic stress, anxiety, and other mental health problems also. And like I mentioned, while there is family conflict, it's important to know that you do not need to be involved with everything. Because family conflict, whatever is happening, wherever you can try to change, wherever you can try to improve, is where your role is. But trying to be a part of that suffering all through the time is what you are choosing for yourself. It's okay and it's not selfish to detach or disconnect yourself from there. It's okay if you want to have your own time, if you want to take care of your own self. It's not selfish. That is how we people are made to be. Humans are supposed to be this way. Okay, so have a breather every now and then. Take care of your own self. Try for more detachment when it comes to family conflict. And you may visit a family therapist for this also. Procrastinate, not productive, something that we have addressed, what procrastination is like, how it goes. When I feel light dizzy, feel BP, pulse rising and falling and losing control. Yes, therapy and medicines. Inability to pay my own bills is a distress to me. Like I mentioned, thought regulation, more and more of thought, negative thought regulation. Social situations, judgment, fear, all these things that basically trigger that stress and anxiety. Social situations get assessed. But there's something called social anxiety also. So it would be beneficial if you seek a therapist or a psychiatrist, whoever can do an evaluation, just to ensure if this is like stress that is coming from social situations, or is it social anxiety, because the treatment line would be different. Judgment, fear, that will all come under the assessment only. So seek out for professional assessment. Multitasking at work, constant feeling that I might lose out on the task, sweating and restlessness. Yes, very much of the things that happen to all of us. Pretty much so, multitasking at work, multitasking is never a good concept, and our society again has glorified it. We are trying to divide our attention into so many things, and it causes their own levels of stress. Try to focus upon one thing at a time. That is what we call as mindfulness. Mindfulness is about being in the present moment, focusing on the task at hand, and being able to go about one thing at a time instead of taking up too many tasks. Because what we are missing out while we are stuck in that pendulum of past and future, where we are just moving here and there, is our present moment. Mindfulness. Be more mindful at work. constant feeling that I might lose out on tasks, inevitable. It will happen. Everyone loses out on tasks. Everyone has those days. Everyone feels uh, like sweating and restless, and everyone has those fears. What if I'm not able to meet the expectations, or what if I miss out on this or miss out on that? It's less about what the situation demands. It's more about how you perceive, how you help yourself, that thought regulation. I have thoughts like, what if I die? That's a very extreme thought, and always ask for reassurance. This this could be a mental health problem which you might need diagnosis for. So, having a very extreme thought such as I might die, which is the worst case scenario, again seems like anxiety. So I'm not making a diagnosis because I cannot uh, depending on very brief and limited information. Try visiting a mental health professional for this. You may require therapy for this, and it will be beneficial if you consider that. I can see most of the people here are having symptoms of anxiety. What if I'm not able to make a really decent career life? Societal acceptance. Society increases our stress and anxiety. Just detach yourself from there every now and then. Know your worth and know your capability. And I think the rest of the things I have taken up. Anything else? I think you guys can ask me tomorrow also. And this it's going to be a continuation tomorrow. A lot about anxiety and a lot more interaction than today. And if there's anything that you need help with, you may approach me on Instagram, seeking my mind. All right. So I think Khushi, we can now end the session.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you for this insightful session. I really hope everyone have learned a lot about stress and anxiety. And to all the beautiful audience, I'm really happy to know that you have shared your views about what causes you stress. And I really hope that you will be able to manage them after tomorrow's session. Also, we'll be coming live again tomorrow at 7 p.m. So, you all are welcome to join us. And also, don't forget to subscribe our channel, The Psych Life. Thank you so much. Thank you
Thank you,
so much, ma'am.
Khushi. Thank you for being the lovely host. Thank you, participants. You've been very nice and very good. Thank you, and I expect similar type of participation tomorrow. Thank you, everyone. Bye bye. Take care.